Welcome to another video on Power BI interview questions. Hope you're watching this series from beginning. The next question which you may be asked in a Power BI interview question, and is the question which is not related to Power BI, it is related to data modeling, and it can be asked in any data modeling or data analytics job. It may be asked if you are applying for a SQL developer job. It may be asked if you are applying for any data engineering job. It is not only a Power BI question. So the question which you may be asked is, what is SCD? So SCD is nothing but slowly changing dimension. Slowly changing dimension is a concept in the data warehousing and database management that describes how dimension or attribute in data warehouse changes over time. So basically what happens when we say update a table. So let's say the value has been changed. So what you typically do is you update that value. So that value is overwritten, but you cannot overwrite values in certain cases. You have to maintain the history. Let's say employee. Now employee has manager, they have a title. So what happens, let's say you had a title software engineer and you will move to senior software engineer. Now I would like to know in the past when you were software engineer, how was your performance, or how was your performance under an X manager when your managers have changed over a period of time. How do I track that back? And if I have to track that back, I need to have a record which tells me when you were software engineer, when you became senior software engineer, how your managers have changed. So any change in the attribute or the value has to be tracked along with its history. So there could be change which has been changed. You know, what was my past value? There could be possibility to track it with the start date and end date. So there are various type of SCDs which we are going to discuss how to manage these things. This is the reason why we need history, because we want to look back how these attributes in the past, and we want to analyze the data based on the value of that attribute in the past. So SCDs are particularly useful for dealing with the historical data or the data that's evolved slowly over time, such as customer information, product details, or geographical information. Employee information is just one of other information which you want to track. An important goal of managing slowly changing dimension in a data warehouse is to ensure historical accuracy and integrity. So we want to maintain the historical accuracy and integrity, and that's why we do it. Means we wanted to know what happened when this customer was having these attributes, or when this product have this price, or something related to geography. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the various type of SCDs what we have. So there are actually 5: SCD1, SCD2, SCD3, SCD4 and 6. SCD5 right now is not a definition which is agreed upon. So usually you have SCD1, 2, 3, 4 and 6, and we are only going to discuss 1, 2 and 3, and out of those SCD type 2 is one which is very common and which is also very good in tracking the history. So SCD, or slowly changing dimensions, are used to track the changes over a period of time so that you can accurately analyze your data. There are 3 main type of SCD. SCD type 1, in this type of SCD we overwrite the value. So basically we overwrite, we are not tracking the history. So data history is lost. So you know, my title was software engineer, I became senior software engineer, you simply updated the title, so you don't know when I was software engineer or till what time I was software engineer. Now type 2 SCD, and this is the one which is very commonly used. This type of SCD create a new record for each change to the dimension. In this way you can keep track of the historical values, but if the dimension change frequently, it can lead to data block. There are various ways it can be maintained. It can be maintained using versions with the mark of what is the latest version, or it can also be maintained with the start date and end date. Very common way is to use start date and end date for what time you are holding a particular attribute in a dimension. So let's say you started as a software engineer when you joined the company 1st January 2020, and you remain till 31st December 2022 you were there, and now from 1st January 2023 you became senior software engineer, and end date might be null in some cases, so that is representing the latest record. So in this manner, you are actually creating history with each and every change of each and every attribute. Now what happens if the changes are too frequent? Like there is a dimension where these changes are too frequent, then it can lead to lot of rows getting created, and when this dimension grows in, it may actually slows down your queries, but having a bigger dimension never works out. So if there are too many frequent changes, then we need to think about what's the best way to manage these values, and do we need to manage each and every change of each and every attribute? That is another thing you need to take care when you are creating SCD type 2. Now SCD type 3, this type SCD adds a new column to the dimension. The table stored the previous value of the change attribute. This allows you to track historical value of the dimension without data blot. Now what happens is basically, because so many number of rows are increasing, you want an easier method. What is that easier method is? Easier method is just you maintain one previous value. So what happens? This value is right now X and it's become Y. The disadvantage here is you can't find out all the historical changes. Secondly, if there are more than one changes, you only know what was your last updated date when you got this one. So this might not be suitable in some of the cases, but in the places where the changes are very minimal, they happen once in a while, such things could be used because we know these things are going to change once in a while. Like, city and state relationship, that is not going to change for a while. So these kind of things are, really slow to change. They are not going to change, every month or 2 months or a year. So in such cases, you can use additional column which tells us the previous values, and this also reduces the amount of data which we need to maintain. So this is SCD type 3. Now there are SCD type 4 and SCD type 6. You can also read about those. So let's look at some of the example how the data would look like in case of SCD. So the data would look like this, like old data and the modified data. So in type 1, we simply overwrite, we don't know the history. So item ID 1, item name is 1, brand was A, and we have modified it to the B. So this is the same record. The modified one is the same record as the previous one, but there is no tracking here. Now in the type 2, the old record again was the same. Item ID 1, name is item 1, brand is this, and the start date was this, and there is no end date initially. But later on when we modified it, the first record got an end dated and the second record started with a new start date, and there is no end date. No end date means this is the latest record. In the type 3, the old record is again same, but in the new record, the modified record, you still have the one record, you have the new value as B, the old value as A. Now this is the only theory part of it which we are covering there. Now in some cases you may be asked, and especially that happens in the SQL interviews, that you may be asked that you got the data as SCD type 1, how you're going to create it as SCD type 2. That is something really interesting. If you are actually appearing for a data engineering interview, please go ahead and make sure that you prepare for that particular question. So go ahead and practice this question out. Thank you for taking time to watch this video. Your curiosity and quest for the knowledge are what's inspiring this series. If you have any question or topics you would like me to explore in this series, please let me know in the comments below. Your support is truly means the world to us. It's the reason we create and share these videos. If you have enjoyed this content and would like to see more, please consider liking, sharing and commenting. It helps us immensely. Until next time, keep learning and stay connected. Thank you.